Hello everyone, and you're all very warm welcome to this tutorial. You've heard right, tutorial for the PMDG 737 for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Many of you have asked for it in the comments beneath my other videos, so I couldn't resist and started this series for you now. I'm Emmanuel, I'm a member of the PMDG tech team and a real-life Boeing 737 pilot. On this tutorial we will head from London Stansted to Dublin Airport. That's one of the highly frequented 737 routes in Europe, operated today by Ryanair. Now, again, just like my other videos, these tutorials are not meant for the very beginners, so I will not explain the most basic stuff, but I will focus on the airplane and assume that you have a certain knowledge of general airliners and general flight operations. The procedures you are about to see in this video are not the general Boeing SOPs, but they're an adaptation I've made from the way I used to work when flying the real airplane and the way that it's possible to fly an aircraft in a single pilot environment on a desktop simulator. Nonetheless, when watching these tutorials, I'm sure that you will learn a lot, and I am sure that they are going to be a great help for you trying to learn the PMDG 737. In this video, we are going to do the flight deck safety inspection and the preliminary flight deck procedures, as well as the walkaround. And then on the next series, we are going to work our way all the way through the flight over the next probably couple of weeks. I cannot give any specific estimates on how long it's going to take to upload those videos. So for now, enough talking. Let's head into the captain's seat and start our procedures. So we'll start when the crew is arriving at the airplane, and we'll just get ourselves a general overview of the airplane. We'll make sure the surfaces and chocks are checked. We'll check the maintenance status of the airplane. Now that's something that in the PMDG 737 we can do as soon as we have electrical power, since we will be able to check the menus in the flight management computer. Next up, we'll turn on the battery. Make sure that the electric hydraulic pump switches are off. The landing gear lever is down. And the ship's library is checked. That's things like all the required documentations. Now, for flight simulation use, I will check that we have the operational flight plan. If you are flying online, check your pilot client to make sure that you have actually filed the flight plan and this kind of things. We do have ground power available, so we'll turn the ground power switch on now. You can hear the airplane powering up. And the next thing we're going to do is the fire tests. So first of all we'll do the fault and in-op detection. We see the two lights lighting up. And then we're going to run the actual fire test itself. The fire and overheat warning check. You hear the fire belts coming on one after another. Make sure that you're actually able to cancel the warning here and that the warning is actually going off. In case of an actual fire, you don't want the fire bell to ring all the time without the ability to cancel it. We'll also check the two bottles. We have two for the engines, one for the APU, but do note it's only two bottles for both engines. You can fire each of the two bottles into each of the two engines, but once you've fired both bottles, if there is anything happening with your other engine, then you don't have any left. At this point we could start the APU, however, since we are sitting at an airport where there is ground power available, we are going to save the environment and we're not going to run the auxiliary power unit to save the CO2 emissions. Next up, emergency exit light switch, armed. We'll check that the cabin attendant call is working. You've heard the chime in the back there. Make sure that the flap lever is set to match the actual flap position. They're retracted, so We've retracted the flap lever as well. Then we are going to check the takeoff configuration warning. We're going to do that separately on both thrust levers to make sure that they are both working independently. Check the cargo fire system. And then in the real airplane now we would check the PA system as well. Obviously here in the simulator we cannot do it. Check that all 3 gear pins are in place and that the external power access door, that the manual gear extension access door is closed there. If this door is open like this, you would not be able to retract the landing gear, since this is interrupting the mechanism on the landing gear lever. From here, make sure we do have the fire extinguisher here. We have the protective breathing equipment in the pockets here. Check all the circuit breakers. You can best do this if you just position yourself right next to them, like this, and then you will see if there is any circuit breaker standing out. As you can see, here all the circuit breakers are in on the P6 panel. Check that the escape rope is in place. And from here on, we'll head up to the flight recorder test. You'll see the off light illuminated here. Switch the button to test. The off light's going out. Note the master caution panel here. There's nothing on it right now. Now when we turn the switch back to normal, the flight recorder is going back to off and the overhead light is illuminating. Next we're going to check the clackers one at a time. And we're going to do the stall warning test. Note that there is at least 4 minutes of AC power required on the transfer buses for the test to work. Let's see if we have those already. We do. You can see the left control column shaking here, and you hear the sound. And we do the same on the number 2 test. And here we go. So that test is successful as well. Moving up, we check the engine panel, make sure that none of the lights is illuminated and that the ECs are on and guarded. Make sure the passenger oxygen switch is guarded and the light is out. Ensure sufficient oxygen pressure available for the flight. Now, if that needle is going down, there is a table available in the performance dispatch chapter of the AFCOM where you can check how much pressure you need depending on the number of crewmen in the flight deck. Service interphone switch is off. We'll check the GPS light is off, the PSEU is off. Turn on both IRS, they're momentarily going onto the on-DC lights, and that is going to switch to a line in a moment. From here we're moving on to the other side. Again, check the escape rope, check the circuit breakers over here, check that we do have all the required equipment back here. Make sure we have the crash axe on board, and finally when we're heading back into our seat, unless there is brake cooling required, which is not the case, we've just taken over the airplane that's been sitting on the ground in cold and dark, we will set the park and brake. Now this is the preliminary safety inspection complete, and now we're going to head off for the walk around. There's one thing we need to do here when we are doing the walk around. That is, we'll just turn on the hydraulic pumps after making sure that the area outside is clear, so that we have pressure in the hydraulic system, which makes it easier to detect any leaks that we might have. Now, let's head out for the walk around. I have to say here, please excuse my skills with the drone camera. I'm still learning this one. However, I'm sure that I will be able to show you what you want to see. Now, one quick note here as well. We're currently standing in the front galley of the airplane. You will note that the textures are not quite as crisp yet, and that there is definitely a little bit of room for improvement, and that is actually something PMDG is planning for a later update. So bear with me if these things are not looking 100% up to standard yet. That's just expected. Now, one more word here. Since we are operating a Ryanair flight, I've chosen the Ryanair livery for this one, which is work in progress as well at this point, since we are still in a pre-release state recording this on a beta version of the airplane. So bear with me, if things are not 100% crisp yet, or if there are still some mistakes. Some textures are not looking 100% sharp as well yet. And that is all known to the PMDG team, and that's something that's still being worked on for the release. This said, let's head out. So, say hello to our dispatcher here. And he's wise, he's wearing the headset, because this airplane is loud with the hydraulic pumps on in the real world. Luckily we are recording this on simulator, so you will be able to understand me. However, in the real airplane, if you want to show somebody the wheel well, for example, if there is a new pilot coming with you and you are instructing the new pilot as a line trainer, then you do want to be sure that, you know, you can communicate in the wheel well, which is not that easy. Alright, coming out for the walk around. We're checking the true air temperature probe here, make sure there is no visible damage and that it's not blocked. Then looking at the pitot probe and the angle of attack probe here. Again, no damage, not blocked. I will head off into a little bit of distance in front of the airplane and just get a general overview. Moan about the parking skills of the previous pilot. And just have a general overlook at the airplane and make sure that there is nothing generally wrong here. Next up, we'll have a look into the nose wheel well. This is again something that PMDG is going to improve in terms of the modeling and texturing. However, this is serving our job. We make sure that the steering mechanisms here are fine, that there is no damage to the cables. Make sure there is no bird sticking in here that might have been hit on a previous flight. Check the overall wheel here. Just make sure there is no damage. And that the light is fine as well. Right, now we're heading over. Checking again on the FO side that the pitot and static systems are alright. Check that the AOA probe is fine. External power access door, make sure there is no damage in there. Rumors say that it does from time to time happen that the ground staff forgets to close it, and then when you arrive at your destination, the first thing the dispatcher is going to do, he's going to run into your flight deck and tell you, hey, you've landed with the door open, what's going on there? Then we have a look at the door over here, make sure that the door handle is flush, make sure there is no general damage at the door and that it's sitting well into its fitting. Down here, we have this green little disc. That is part of the crew oxygen system. If this disc would be missing, then you would have reason to believe that there is a problem with the crew oxygen system and you'd have to call maintenance. Here the static ports, again, are not obstructed by anything, are not blocked. Especially if the airplane is coming out of maintenance, make sure there is no coverings on these. The forward cargo door, not damaged as well. Then we have a look at the ram air doors here. Have a look in here, make sure there is no birds sitting in there. No wildlife nesting. Make sure the landing lights are fine. The leading edge flaps over here are not damaged. Coming over to the engine, there are two thrust reverser pins back here. If the thrust reverser is inoperative, there would be pins sticking out over here. So make sure that those pins are not visible. Have a general look at the engine. Make sure there is no damage, no sign of bird strike or anything. Check the fan blades, especially check for the leading edges of the fan blades, to make sure that they are not damaged. For example, there could be small stones that you might have hit on a runway, and even small cracks in here could turn into something devastating when these things are rotating at several thousand rounds per minute. Then we're moving on. Other side of the engine. Again, get a general overview, make sure that the engine oil access door is closed and latched here. Looking down below, I'm sure you've seen some of those spectacular videos of the engine cowling falling off in the Airbus A320s. There is the latch down here as well that you want to make sure that it's closed. Then again, thrust reverser. pins not showing. From here we're going out along the leading edge, making sure that there is no visible damage over here, no signs of a bird strike. The refueling panel over here is closed and latched as well. And when we're getting up to the navigation lights, you have basically two lights in here, one of which needs to be working. Both are normally working, but when one can be damaged, or rather one can be broken, there should be no visible damage, of course, and the airplane is still dispatchable. Now we're moving along the wing tip, make sure the winglet is not damaged. There have been occasions already in my airline as well as in others where there has been damage to the winglets, for example when the airplane has been towed. And make sure the white navigation lights back here are okay as well. Again, one of the two bulbs needs to be working for the airplane to be able to dispatch. Then you have the static wick dischargers over here, two on each wing. Over here you have the fuel overflow vent, so if something would go wrong in the refueling, this is where the fuel would come out. Same on the other side of the airplane. The ailerons, nothing wrong over there. The flap drive motors over here are not damaged. The flaps themselves don't show any signs of bird strike or anything. But when we're getting over here, I'm always having another look into the back of the engine. Make sure there's nothing lying in there. No remains of a bird or anything. Coming onto the wheels, we check that there is no damage to the wheels. We do check the brake indicator pins over here. Those will be wearing down while you're using the brakes. And when they are becoming flush with the metal over here, that's when the brakes have to be exchanged. Those over here are sticking out very wide, so we'll probably have very new brakes on board this airplane. Make sure that the landing gear door is not damaged. Again, general overview, make sure there is no bird sticking in anywhere over here. Then we have a little look into the wheel well. Now you'll say, hold on, this is looking horrible. You're probably right about it. PMDG has already confirmed that they want to remodel the entire wheel well with a later update. So what you see over here is just the initial version. Basically what you're looking at in here is that there is no signs of a hydraulic leak. At a later point, when the update is coming, you will hopefully be able to check the hydraulic reservoir indicators that you will find over here then. And make sure that there is nothing in here that doesn't belong here. We can go further to the back of the airplane, again check the aft cargo door. Make sure there is no damage over here. You should open it up as well, have a look into the cargo area, that there is nothing in there that doesn't belong there. Again, for a simplicity reason, since I don't want to change between flight deck and outside view all the time, I'm just going to keep it closed for the purpose of this tutorial. Then we're heading further back. Make sure the outflow valve is not damaged, not blocked. Make sure that the aft door handle is flush again and that there is no damage to the doors. Looking over here, that's the Apu Inlet door. We're not running the APU, so this is basically sticking flush to the airplane. And make sure that there is no wildlife resting in here. Also, while we have a look at the pitot probe you find on the vertical stabilizer, that's for the elevator field computer. And again, this cannot be damaged or blocked in any way. If the airplane has been parked for a longer while, also make sure that there is no probe coverings hanging down here. That's the famous remove before flight dinghies that you keep finding. Have a look at the leading edge of the elevator, or of the stabilizer rather. Make sure there's no damage over there. Coming up to the edge of the stabilizer, you'll find 3 static wick dischargers over here, and 3 is the number you need here as well. Make sure that the APU exhaust is not blocked. Now, if you were to fly 737-800, not the 700, you'd probably find the tail skid over here, if it's installed in your airline. Make sure that there is no signs of a tail strike over here. The tail skid is the first one where the airplane would contact the runway, so make sure that there is nothing in here. In the 700, The risk of a tail strike is less, so you don't have a tail skid installed here, so just make sure that there is no sign of a tail strike in general. Heading over to the other side of the airplane, again we are looking at the elevator, the static wick dischargers and the leading edge of the stabilizer. Get a general impression of the stabilizer as well. A little bit hard to see right now. On the rudder, you should have 4 static wick dischargers here. 1 on the top, 3 at the back. They are there in the model, however, due to my level of zoom here, they are just not visible right now. But I can assure you they are there if you want to go close up. Again, we have the pitot probe for the elevator fuel computer on the captain's side. Heading further back. Make sure that these are not blocked here. And now heading further forward again. All the access doors for the lavatory services here are closed. Emergency light over here, just as on the other side, is not damaged as well. And now we are slowly getting back. Repeating what we've already done on the other side. Checking the wheels, checking the brake wear pins. Making sure there is nothing damaged. Making sure there is no remains of a bird sticking anywhere. Or of any other wildlife you may be able to find. Have a look into the wheel well again. Over here. Again, currently missing in the current model, but you can sort of see it here on the 2D texture. This is where the fire extinguishers are sitting, and there should be a small dial on there that shows you the pressure that there is in the system. So just make sure that the fire in the extinguishers are actually filled up there. And again, make sure there is no hydraulic fluid or anything dripping down here that really shouldn't be there. Again, we're going to check the flaps. Also have a quick look into the back of the engine here while we're standing here, making sure there's nothing in there, no damage or anything. Again, we're checking the wing. And over here again we have the fuel overflow vent. And on this side of the airplane, that's actually something more interesting, because when we are boarding the airplane through the front and the aft doors, you will have passengers walking in this area. And there is guidance systems for the passengers standing over here that are leading the passengers around the wing, and that's especially because of this. Because if there is fuel coming out over here, we do want to be absolutely sure that it's not spilling on any of the passengers that might be waiting here to get into the airplane. Moving further back again, check the lights, check the static wick dischargers. Make sure that the winglet is not damaged. Once again the lights, make sure that at least one of the 2 bulbs is working. And if this in the PMDG version of things, they will be working. You're just getting a general look at the leading edge here again, make sure there is nothing damaged. On the engine again, check the thrust reverser pins. Make sure that the bottom side of the engine is not damaged. Something else I have to add over here is that the 737NG, due to its continuous modifications from the original 737, has very low-lying engines. With just about 8 degrees of bank on the landing, your engine pod might be striking the runway. So on top of the latches over here, you're also looking that there is no stretch markings or anything on the engines. That might be an indication that an engine pod strike may have happened on the previous landing. So you do want to definitely look under the engines, even though it might make your lovely uniform a little bit dirty if the ramp is, let's say, not in the best condition. We check the engine, check the fan blades as we did on the other end side, and over here check the leading edge flaps, engine oil access door, thrust reverser pins, making sure that the landing light is not damaged here. Check that there is nothing in the ram air intakes and that the door itself isn't damaged. No wildlife there and nothing. We're again going to check for the static ports and for the alternate static ports. And if you are operating an airplane that has an air stay installed, like this Ryanair 737 does, make sure that the air stair panel here is closed and latched. Again, rumors say that airplanes have arrived on stand, and the ramp agent came in and said, "Hey, there's a panel open on your aircraft. Why did you just fly 4.5 hours to the Canary Islands with us?" Alright, that's it for the walk around. Now it's time to head back up to the flight deck. And when we're there, we are going to start with the actual flight preparation. However, that's for another video. So for now, thank you very much for joining. And I will hopefully be able to upload the next video in this series over the course of the next couple of days. Thank you very much. And wherever you are, have a great day. And we hope to see you again soon in the PMDG 737 for Microsoft Flight Simulator.